take a look at this video right here on your screen, and viewer discretion is advised. One person critically injured and a terrorist shot dead during a stabbing attack in central Tel Aviv this afternoon. The limited information that we have coming from police there on the scene, speaking with the Times of Israel. This is surveillance video that was obtained by Trey Yingst. He is with Fox News and joins us quite a bit, showing the 19-year-old terrorist attacking people that were apparently standing on a sidewalk outside of a restaurant in Tel Aviv, stabbing at least one person, then taking off. After he's out of frame, as you can tell, police say that he was shot dead by an armed Israeli civilian. Investigators have labeled this a terror attack and add the victim, a man in his 30s, was in serious condition at an Israeli hospital. Police say the terror suspect is from the West Bank, again, 19 years old. All of this happening hours before a fragile ceasefire is set to go into effect between Israel and Hamas amid the Gaza war. I want to talk more about all of that here, so let's bring in a friend of the show. We do have Benjamin Anthony, the CEO and co-founder of the MirYam Institute, also a combat veteran of service in the Israel Defense Forces. That includes, of course, in this war as well. Thank you so much, as always, Benjamin, for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. And first off, I do want to talk about the ceasefire deal overall and really what it means for the IDF troops that are there in Gaza. Do they withdraw altogether, or what actually happens as far as that goes?
So, first of all, before we get to that, if I may, Josh, I just want to express what we're seeing here. Who does Israel want to come home? Israel wants to bring home its men, its women, its children, those who have been held in captivity for 470 days. It wants to bring home, for example, the Bibas family. Ariel, who is 4 years of age, or was 4 years of age when kidnapped. Kfir, who was 9 months of age when kidnapped. And of course, their parents, Yarden and Shiri, 34 and 33, respectively. Now, who does Hamas want to bring home? They want to bring home Ibrahim Hamid. Hamid was the mastermind behind 90% of the suicide bombings during the Second Intifada between 2000 and 2005. And he planned and organized numerous attacks against Israelis, including severe suicide or homicide bombings. Who else does Hamas want to bring back? Who else do they want in their society? They want Abbas al-Sayed, the principal planner of the 2002 Passover massacre in the city of Netanya in Israel. That individual was sentenced to 35 life sentences. That equation, in my opinion, tells you everything you need to know about the distinction between our two societies. We want our men, women, and children home. Hamas wants its murderers back in its midst. Quite the contrary to how any civilized society would be expected to act. Now, with that having been said, in terms of the Israel Defense Forces, Prime Minister Netanyahu actually made a statement today that dispelled the notion, the public notion, that the IDF would be withdrawing from the Philadelphia corridor. He actually said not only would it not be withdrawing from there, but it would be increasing its presence in the Philadelphia corridor. That's the area that's between southern Gaza and the northern area of the Sinai Peninsula. It's a key area because it's through that crossing that Hamas operatives, Palestinian Islamic Jihad operatives, have moved from southern Gaza into the Sinai Peninsula, traveled up to Syria, then up to Lebanon, then to Syria, then to Iraq, over to Iran, received training, and then retrodden those steps in reverse, gone back into the Gaza Strip from the Sinai Peninsula. And it was that training, that contraband, those munitions, all of which were smuggled through that area, that was launched against Israel in such a horrific manner on October the 7th. So the Prime Minister is saying we're going to stay there. What's up for discussion is a redistribution of the Israel Defense Forces, absolutely not a retreat, but a redistribution of the forces away from densely populated areas. And there's a discussion about whether or not they will withdraw from the Netzarim corridor, which is this area that bifurcates north from south Israel and essentially runs from the eastern parts of the Gaza Strip all the way over to the west coast of Gaza. That's the main artery for the supply of soldiers, for the supply of munitions, for supplies in general, in and out of the Gaza Strip. A total withdrawal from there, I cannot imagine will take place, but that seems to be one of the demands.
Going a step further here, President Biden, who spoke several days ago and was the first to really announce that this deal had been accepted by both Israel and Hamas, he did say that his hope is that this pause in the fighting would lead to the end of the war altogether. Does it appear that that is where we're headed? Because we did hear from Netanyahu not too long ago, and it sounds like he says he is still prepared to fight.
Well, of course, there were several key goals of this war. One of those was the return of the hostages. So we're in the midst of that very painful process. Israel has been thrust into a macabre lottery by Hamas. Israel does not know, to this very moment, incidentally, at the time of this broadcast, which 3 female hostages will be returned to Israel at the expected time tomorrow. We still have not received that information. We don't know which of the 33 hostages are alive, which are dead, which are functioning, which are not functioning, who will be able to continue with a normal life, who will not, who may have been sexually abused or worse, who has not. We don't have that information. And so the families are in the midst of this dreadful game, the rules of which Hamas has established. That is not the only goal of the war, however. The other goal of the war is to stop Hamas from presenting a threat to the safety and the security of the people of Israel. Now, it should be emphasized that Hamas is negotiating from a position of profound weakness, not a position of strength. It may be stubborn, it may be acting in a depraved manner, but it is not acting from a position of strength. Let's go through a brief list of what they've lost. They no longer have Mohammed Deif, who was the mastermind of their military activities. He was dispatched by Israel's security forces. They no longer have Yahya Sinwar. He was dispatched by our security forces. We are no longer harassed from our northern flank by Hezbollah to the extent that once we were. Hassan Nasrallah and the command and control center of Hezbollah having been dispatched by the Israel Defense Forces. So Hamas is acting from a position of profound weakness, but it still poses a threat to the people of Israel. We are seeing the continued rocketing over the border from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel and sometimes beyond. And I think that Benjamin Netanyahu was right to emphasize in his statement today that if we see the terms of the ceasefire being breached, not only will Israel return to the fight, but it will return to the fight in a stronger fashion than it has done, with the declared backing of the incoming president of the United States, Donald Trump.